Welcome back to another episode of Creating Useless Tier Lists. I will be creating a tier list of every lightsaber stab in the history of Star Wars, and yes, I will be critiquing them to a T. So get your notebooks, class is now in session. We will be watching this compilation generously provided by Michael J. He lets us know this is only humanoids and aliens, not droids, not creatures, nothing like that. I will be judging these based off of levels of emotion and how much it impacts the story and how cool it is, you know, because that's very important. So we start off with a classic, an absolute banger, really stabs you in the gut right there. Too soon? This scene is one of the first Star Wars death stabs, so we gotta put it up really high. I'm thinking like S tier, not only because it is the first Star Wars death stab, but because it is really emotional. It drives Obi-Wan's character to going on and taking on Anakin as a pupil. God, I feel like... I feel like one of those commentary guys on a sports channel. That was a great stab, you know, real three-pointer right there. Oh, God.
I'm sorry, Master Kenobi. I failed.
Oh, that's creepy. Oh, my goodness. You saw the hand, right? Like, Grievous is, like, petting her? Jeez, that's so creepy.
I'm sorry, Master Kenobi. I failed.
Oh, General Kenobi, we've been waiting for you, stinking Jedi.
Like, that puts a whole new perspective on it. Like, I was watching this before, and I didn't even see that. This is a little less emotional. This is a deleted scene, and it's not exactly the fact that Shaak Ti gets stabbed. It's General Grievous doing the stabbing. General Grievous is doing the petting. He's very, very creepy in this, and it really puts into more perspective of who General Grievous is as a character. Because whenever I watched, like, especially Attack on the Clones, he always seems so pathetic, like, so freaking pathetic. This, I would possibly say, could have been A tier, but I'm gonna put it at S tier, especially for that creepy petting scene.
What is it, Skywalker?
That one was a lot less cool, and it doesn't put in perspective of anybody besides Anakin as a backstabbing asshole. And I mean, we already knew that already. That doesn't really help anything. I understand that they took that out. This right here, it's a D tier.
It's treason, then.
That one was terrible. That guy could have at least blocked that shot. There's another dude in frame who could have helped out. That guy was like about to help, but he was like, well, maybe not. I'm gonna put Shaak Ti's at an E tier because Shaak Ti's like, yeah, she could have force sensed it, but it's not very good. And I feel like I'm gonna put this guy at an E tier too. You don't know who this guy is. He just dies right off the bat. I like most of those stabs right there. Like, there's some that were kind of far away or like off screen. Those ones were okay. I'm gonna put this at B tier, but the only reason I'm doing that is because of the one stab with Yoda where he throws that lightsaber. Very generic stab. It's going C tier.
Who will strike first and brand themselves a cold-blooded killer?
Anakin. What? He was gonna blow up the ship.
This one, I personally believe, was a very good demonstration of Obi-Wan's and Anakin's mental state during the war. Specifically, Anakin's. He's just gonna kill him. He could have cut off his arm or whatever, but instead, Anakin killed him. I feel like this is a very A-tier stab right here.
Our plan went off without a hitch.
Our plan.
And I will, of course, make sure your contributions are noted in my report to Count Dooku.
I'll tell him myself.
kind of combine these two because they're very similar and I'm clearly running out of space. It's just mostly showing that Visage is very brutal, very unmerciful during this time in the war. This is a very B tier kind of thing to me. Hear me out. I would put that at probably a B to an A tier. Those were really cool movements and things like that. But I'm gonna have to put it at C tier because I just absolutely hate this guy. I can't stand him. He's such an asshole. If you don't know what I'm talking about, basically he had 2 platoons of clone troopers. Excuse me. I hate this guy. And he pitted them against each other. He made them think the other ones were droids wearing helmets and stuff like that because he hates clones. That's the only reason. Okay, I'll put him at B tier because the story is good. I hate him that much. I don't want to. I want to put him at below F tier because this guy, he grinds my gears. Not to mention, in the episode, he had one of my favorite clones of all time killed. Sorry, I've had a lot of pent-up rage over the years about this guy, and I can finally express it on the internet to a bunch of strangers.
You certainly earned your fee this time.
More than my fee. This droid is worth more, I get paid more. Now I suggest...
There's your bonus.
It's just not as impactful as the last Grievous stab. Like, the last Grievous stab obviously was S tier. It showed his creepiness. It showed it just who he is and how much you hate him. It's a very generic stab. It shows that Grievous is just an asshole. I'm gonna put this at C tier, but I might change that to B tier later depending on what else I put in B tier.
He's infected! This thing caught me!
Ugh, that is disgusting. I don't like that. It really... Oh. I remember this episode very well. It grossed me out. It's a very generic stab. It's not like very cool. It's very gross looking, but I'm not gonna make it like bad for being gross looking. I'm gonna say I'd put it at C tier. Yet another C tier one. Not too great, you know, very generic. It works well for a fight scene. Sometimes you just gotta stab people. It just how it be.
Continue.
So you have betrayed me, Father. But beware your heart.
This scene was so freaking good. It's one of my favorite. I'd probably put this scene above S tier if I could. It's so emotional and you have to watch like the full episode to totally understand it. It affects Ahsoka's story and it shows what's going to basically happen to the light and dark side, and it's a very thought-provoking episode. I'd 100% recommend it. It feels like fucking Mordor in my room right now. I got doors open. I don't understand why it's so hot. It's not this hot outside. Is it my heat lamp? Is that what's making it hot? Is my gecko making me hot? Right there, another S tier stab. This one honestly caught me off guard when I first watched it. It was so unexpected. It greatly affected Obi-Wan's story, and it showed another side to Obi-Wan we didn't really know about in the movies. Very S tier, very good, very emotional. I know what you're thinking. There's a lot of S tier compared to everything else. Actually, S tier has the most right now, and you're right. You're right, that is very much correct, but we are just getting into all the C tiers and B tiers and D tiers because there's just so many after this. It just goes downhill. It boof, plummets.
It will die with you!
My thanks, Padawan Tenno.
You're a fool, Richelieu.
So those were all just very C tier stabs. Nothing really special there.
Here is your granddaughter. As promised.
That was also a very generic stab, but because of the nature of what happened and through the episode, the dude's an asshole. So I'm gonna give that a B tier for invoking some sort of emotion and hatred towards that guy.
Get lost.
Hey, I'm talking to you, lady.
I want to say it was a very low effort stab. I want to put it in D tier. I'm going to put this in C tier for now. It wasn't great. It didn't really spark a lot of emotion in me. Maybe it showed Ventress's mental state. I don't really remember.
Fueled by rage and vengeance, they search for meaning in their new alliance as reports of their brutal attacks spread across the galaxy.
This one was pretty good, and I'd say if the voiceover wasn't there, it could potentially be B or even A tier stabbing. Potentially. Because of the voiceover, I can't even put it at C tier. It kind of ruins the whole vibe, man. Stab was great. Voiceover wasn't really. I'm gonna have to put it in D tier for now.
There is a penalty for resistance.
There wasn't really any form to the stab. It wasn't that great. It was okay. Kind of put the fear of God into these guys a little bit, but not too much. It wasn't too much. I'm gonna have to say C for now. I might bring it to a B. This scene makes this guy seem so brutal because he is. He's basically a barbarian and he barely knows how to freaking wield a lightsaber. I'm gonna say B tier for now. It invoked a little bit of emotion. You knew that character a little bit in the Clone Wars and she just dies. Those were all C tier. It wasn't too crazy. This all makes me think of like somebody that gets like stabbed and then they rank the stab. Ha ha! Oh, dude, that was a real C tier stab, man. What do you mean C tier, dude? I just stabbed you. It just wasn't that good, man. What do you mean it wasn't that good? Do I need to stab you again? I mean, it couldn't hurt, okay. Oh man, oh shit, dude, that... Okay, I have to admit, those were some pretty premium stabs. I mean, there was one kind of F tier stab, it really didn't really go in very well, but Holy cow! There was an S tier somewhere around there. I think it was the third time he stabbed me. Well, I mean, thank you. I've tried really hard with my stabs. It makes me good that somebody finally acknowledges that I am a good stabber. Oh shit, dude. I think I'm bleeding out. Oh, fuck. Oh.
The bomb has been disarmed.
You both owe me one now. Admiral, it was a pleasure.
This one is a definite A tier stab in my book. It shows that Anakin could have just disarmed this guy again, like he could have done with the last one, but he didn't. He let his anger get in the way this time because he's being electrocuted. And I mean, you could chalk this up to self-defense in a way, but he's a Jedi. He could have totally disarmed them. Obi-Wan probably would have just chopped off his other arm or something like that. Another A tier in my book. Okay, granted, I don't think the photo that I chose for this is very good, but I'm keeping it nonetheless. So this one, I'm gonna say is A tier. This one, you don't really get to see the Emperor stab anyone very often. He's only like used his lightsaber like once before, and that one kind of sucked. That one was a bit of a E tier in my book, but this is a definite A tier in my book, because not only does it invoke some emotion like, oh no, Darth Maul just lost like the only thing he's ever cared about. Further on in the scene, Darth Maul gets electrocuted and tortured by the Emperor. This scene will always be S tier in my heart. It made Darth Vader seem so freaking menacing, bro. And even though you knew what happened, it was kind of like, whoa, what the fuck's gonna happen? It's a little bit suspenseful. All that aside, I feel like this was an A tier stab. It was very menacing. I feel like it deserves A tier. I don't think it can go up to S tier just yet, but it was just that menacing. And I've realized that basically most of A tier is Anakin. I've also realized that Obi-Wan was present during every S tier. Is that a coincidence? I think not. I don't like the stab. It is very F tier to me, and I'd be inclined to put an F tier if I didn't have any context, but I do know some of the context. So Finn doesn't know how to stab people correctly, obviously. He barely knows how to use a lightsaber, so I do like it for that reasons. I'd argue this could be B tier because of the story. This scene hit hard in theaters, and for me personally, that was total S tier right there. I can see it being A tier to some though, but this is my tier list, so this is going to be S tier. Personally, I did enjoy this fight. I don't think that really any of the stabs are that great, except for the second stab. It was actually really cool. I'd say it's B tier, honestly. It's not too cool, but it's cool enough. I personally like this fight. It had that level of coolness that's just some of the fights just don't have. Slow motion and everything, and he stabbed him. He actually freaking used the side of his lightsaber finally. It gives it a lot more purpose than it had. I like that. It's not cool enough to be A tier, but it's cool. I mean, it's not cool enough to be S tier, but it's cool. I mixed my words up. This is the part of the video where a lot of the plot armor stabs come in. I do side with, I think, 1 or 2 of the plot armor stabs, but the rest are just ridiculous, and they are probably going to be very low on the tier list, even if the stab is cool enough. I'm very conflicted about that one because the stab was cool. Do not get me wrong. The stab was kind of cool. But he fell down kind of like he sprained his ankle. It wasn't too bad. He wasn't like, ah, like most people have been. You know? He was just like, oh, okay. But then Rey force heals it, which ruins the moment because he could have, honestly, it didn't go through his spine. And it probably did burn through some organs and stuff like that. He got force healed, which wasn't exactly established very well in the sequel. I don't like it. It's an F tier for me because of that. Otherwise, it could have been a B tier. This one, it felt kind of cool. It felt a little bit cooler, at least it was trying to be cool. And I'd say it's C tier. It was very average stab. Not very good, not very... There's a little bit of a backflip. That was kind of cool.
To the Empire, we're all just expendable.
Yes, you are.
No!
Look at this. A lightsaber.
This was an absolute S tier stab. Like, this was not really, at least to me, this was not expected in this way. They brushed Prof off at the same time, like he's expendable, and then they just basically forget about him because now Cal Kestis is being chased. At least it wasn't a brush off in a way that was like, oh, he got stabbed, okay, bye. S tier stab for me. Like, that was a good stab. That was a pretty dang good stab. I very much loved how they showed how difficult it was to wield this Darksaber and how much experience he even had wielding a saber in the first place, or like even a sword-like thing. So I'm gonna say A tier for this one. This one was really good.
Watch and learn.
Really think I'd let you take all the credit?
This stab was honestly very cool at the time, but he's fine. He comes back later, basically unmaimed. I don't understand. He should have died, and I would have been totally fine with him dying. It would have been a cool death. This could have been an A tier stab, but they had to bring him back. They just had to, and they didn't even... I don't even think they explained it very well. He had 2 stomachs? That doesn't explain shit. I'm gonna have to say an F tier stab for me. Not very good. Very just, I don't... Could have been A tier stab, but they messed it up. This is the Inquisitor that stabbed the other Inquisitor in the previous scene. She obviously survived. You know, this could have been nothing. I didn't see this going anywhere. They didn't even show the stab. It was very weird for me. Didn't feel like it fit too well in the overarching plot. And they just could have done the scene over just better. She could have been hiding somewhere. she didn't need to be stabbed. Editor Jaden here, I just realized that I didn't even put that into the overarching tier list. It's gonna be F tier for me. Terrible. F tier. The only reason I am giving this a C tier is because Darth Vader looks freaking awesome in this. He really pulls through. This is almost completely overshadowed by the fact that she freaking survived. This is just another stab that I think could have been written better because she could have survived with a different stab, not a stab to the gut, or maybe she was brutally maimed. But whenever you see her again, she's totally fine. Honestly, I didn't mind this stab that much. Like, I'm pretty sure most people hate on this stab because of all the really badly written plot armor stabs. At least she freaking fell down, and then she ends up in the hospital. So I'm gonna say this is a B tier. It could potentially be a C tier, but I feel like it's better than any of the other stabs. In any way, shape, or form, it wasn't that bad of a fight. So this one, I want to throw it in C tier just because the dude disappeared. I want to put it in B tier. It was a kind of cool stab. It was somewhere different. It was his face. Anyways, I hope this shows to you that there are a pretty good amount of good stabs. There are just some really bad ones that just, especially these three down here. And I think I'm gonna move some stuff around here for a second because I feel like some of these go down a bit lower. There we go. I moved a couple around, as you can see. That's my tier list. Tell me what you guys think, because I'd like to know. I'd like to know if you guys think what I did was shit. If you guys like this video, click right here for my last video. I was reviewing cringy Joker posts.